What's going on YouTube? Today I want to show you how I built this modern inspired baby gate. My name's Andy, this is Cedar River Woodworking, and welcome to the shop. First off, I'd like to welcome you to the channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We do build videos just like this one to take your hobbyist trade to the next level. So our house is a mid-century modern house, so we wanted to do some type of modern element to our dog gate. So we don't actually have children yet, so we have it as a dog gate, but you can use it as a baby gate as well. So let's jump into the video and we'll show you exactly how we made this. So starting off, we are going to need 5 sticks of 2x2s. You're going to need your hinges and your latches, 1.5 inch screws. These had small head screws and a drill and an impact driver. Then we're going to set our table saw to about 1.25 inches so that we can rip off all of the rounded edges that are on the 2x2s. Set your blade height so it is just higher than your 2x2s, and go ahead and rip off all of the rounded edges on your 2x2s. If this is a project that you like, go ahead and hit that bell icon so you can get notified anytime a new video is uploaded. So our opening is about 39 inches wide, and we wanted our gate about 32 inches tall. So we marked one board out at 39 inches. And our other board is marked out at 30 inches. Then we'll just go ahead and take those over to our miter station and cut them to size, making sure that you have 2 sides and a top and a bottom. Once you have all of those cut out, we're going to go ahead and make a rectangle with those 4 pieces. Here you can see that I'm just clamping it to the table and using a speed square to get a nice square corner. Starting off this project, you can see that I pre-drilled my holes for these corners. Towards the end, I stopped doing that. If you don't pre-drill it, you can run the risk of splitting this wood. When I drove these in, I buried the heads just a little bit so that later on I could fill it in with some wood filler, and when we have paint, you can't even see the screws. Once you have your rectangle built, I went ahead and just started to lay out the pattern that I wanted. So these were spaced out with a 2x4, which is 3.5 inches wide. So there's 3.5 inches between the spacing on each one of these. I set the angle at 45 degrees. You can see me using a speed square to get the 45-degree angle on that first board. This one's going to be important to make sure that you get 45 degrees on it, because it will set the reference angle for the rest of your boards. So when you do this, just go ahead and continue, and I'm using scrap 2x4s here to make sure that everything is spaced correctly, and lay out all of your lines. You can see that without doing any measurements, I just have it laid out and I marked the corners of how I was going to cut it. I did clamp in certain areas so that I could make sure that nothing slid around and I could get all of the marks exactly how I wanted them to. This isn't a necessary step, but it's one that I really liked. So once you've gone over to your miter station and you've cut all of these out, we're going to go ahead and start securing some in place. So like I had said before, that first corner is going to be the most critical to have. So you can actually see me clamping it into place. This also is not a needed step, but it was one that made me feel a lot more comfortable making sure that it was in the right area. Also, once you have these cut out, you don't actually need the spacers to get them in the correct position because the 45-degree miters on them will cause it to lock into place just fine. I only put these first two boards on so that I could have space so that when we can do the opposing angles that I would have room to get the drill in there so I could get it all screwed into place. For each one of these boards, I made sure that I put 2 screws on each end, because if you only put 1 screw, there is a chance that you can have it twist and get out of alignment with the rest of the piece. So the opposing angles I cut off camera, but one end is a 45 and the other end is a 90-degree cut. If you are building one of these gates, please leave a comment below on where it is that you're going to be installing one of these gates. And about here you can see everything starting to come back together. There will only be a few more boards to put together after this. So you can see that I am scraping off some of the extra chip out that I had from the screws. This is a vital step that you need to do before installing the last 2 boards. You won't be able to get a orbital sander in there and clean that out. You can do this with hand sanding, but I recommend doing it with an orbital sander. So then we do a bit of sanding. You can also do this with everything disassembled. It's easier to get into all the nooks and crannies, but I like to do a sanded finished product. So once I had it all sanded, I went in and got my wife to show her her new gate. And this was her reaction.
Freaking awesome. I love it. What do you think?
I like it.
I love it.
So off camera, we had painted the gate and installed our hardware. So on this side, we have just a regular latch that you can find it at any big box store. There's also one over here on the wall so you can latch it open. Then we have 4 2-inch hinges. Luckily enough, I had a stud that's on the opposite wall of where this latch is. You can use anchors. This gate isn't all that heavy, but it's plenty strong enough to keep our 100-pound dogs out. Now you can use some 3-inch hinges over here if you're worried about any type of weight or movement. This has been up for about 6 months now and we haven't had any issues. The 2-inch ones don't detract from the modernistic style of it, so that's why we went with the 2 inches. So if you liked this video and would like to see any of our other builds, please consider subscribing, because we will post videos on everything that we do. So thank you for stopping by the shop. This has been Cedar River Woodworking, and we will see you in the next video.